So there's an article today on Sportsnet that apparently is to do with an article Ben Kuzma published today in Vancouver newspaper regarding the Montreal Canadiens sending a scout to a recent Vancouver game. Now, um, this is not newsworthy in and of itself because this time of year there's lots of scouts at lots of games because the trade deadline's coming up. We're now 21 days out from the trade deadline. Um, Here's the thing, though. Okay, the thing is, apparently Marc Bergevin is a big fan of Alex Burrows. Apparently, getting Andrew Shaw wasn't enough for him, and now he's after Burrows. I have to say this: if Vancouver makes that deal and trades Burrows to Montreal, um, any ability I have to like Montreal on any level, it's probably going to be gone. And I can probably drop Montreal on my list of favorite teams below California. I'm a Canuck fan first and foremost, but a lot of things, and I've said it before on my channel, that Burrows is not a guy that I'm a huge fan of. He scored key goals at key times, and he's played a lot of games as a Canuck, and I respect his career, but there's things on a personal level he's said and done that I shake my head and say, no, I can't. And stuff said on the ice, stuff done on the ice. I remember the way he behaved during the Stanley Cup final against the Bruins, and I was stunned and embarrassed. Not that my Bruins necessarily made me proud, but Burrows was a big part of the issue in that series. And Burrows and Kessler were the two-headed beast at that point. If Burrows goes to Montreal and plays with Andrew Shaw and Brendan Gallagher, I have to say this. Montreal's concern over not getting calls from the referees would not be helped by adding Alex Burrows. Okay. Um, and then the thing becomes, well, what does Montreal give up? Honestly, at this point, I think a third round draft pick gets it done. I think a second round draft pick more than gets it done. I think you trade Burrows and a third to Montreal for their second, and I think Vancouver's kind of laughing. He's a free agent in the offseason. So you're not going to get a lot back. He's past his prime. He's not the goal scorer that he was a few years ago. And you're only going to get so much for him. But the thing for me is if a scout is at a Vancouver game, I think he's looking at more than just Burrows. I think there's been so many rumors about Tanev that he has to be looking at Tanev. So many rumors about Jannik Hansen, he has to be looking at Hansen. And honestly, Jannik Hansen is faster than people think and has better hands than people think. And Jannik Hansen playing in a Montreal jersey could be capable of going on a really nice run and solidifying their scoring depth. I think he'd be a nice fit in Montreal, actually. So while Burrows may get the headlines, I honestly think the real story here would be Jannik Hansen. And other than that, I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of pieces Montreal is going to want. I don't see anybody on the blue line that Montreal is going to go nuts over, other than maybe Tanev. And to get Tanev, they'd have to give up a defenseman back. Now, I don't know which one. Canuck fans that say Beaulieu. Um, Canadian fans that say that's crazy. Um, Probably offer up somebody who's a little bit less than that and throw in a draft pick. But I honestly think that if the Canucks trade Tanev, they're going to regret it. I think they'll deeply regret trading Tanev. I think trading Burrows, the trick is this: he has a no trade clause, and the Canucks have to get him to waive it. And there's going to be a lot of players getting asked to waive their no trade, no movement clauses due to upcoming expansion draft issues. And I think Burrows being Burrows, I think he'd rather stay in Vancouver. I wouldn't be surprised if he blocks a trade to Montreal. But he's French. And it could be a good fit, but again, if Montreal's upset about being shorthanded a lot right now, adding Alex Burrows is not going to help. Then you got Burrows and Gallagher and Shaw, who all are on a referee's list somewhere, all on the same team. And take it from a fan who watched LaPierre, Kessler, and Burrows on the same team. Referees don't give you the benefit of the doubt on anything when you got those three guys together. And these three in Montreal, I would think, would be just as big of a target for officials as the three-headed beast in Vancouver was. I remember when LaPierre got traded, and a lot of Canuck fans were upset, like, "Oh, LaPierre, he plays with such heart and drive and spirit," and he does. And he takes penalties, and players don't really seem to like him very much. Like, players on his own team seem to like him very much as a teammate. Players on other teams, not so much. And officials didn't seem to like him. And then you added in Kessler and Burrows, who clearly were not favorites of referees, and the Canucks were often fighting it. I used to read a lot of complaints about referees being biased against the Canucks, and I always viewed it in another way. The Canucks had a bad reputation, and they were fighting that reputation every single game. If you trade Burrows to Montreal, you may be setting Montreal up for that same reputation. And add in the questionable hits by Emelin. Alexei Emelin does, dish out some hits that are borderline. And you add that to the forward group that I just mentioned of agitators, and you could spend half of a playoff game in the penalty box. You don't want to set that up. You don't want to set things up so that you're fighting from behind the whole time and you're fighting the referees. So I just figured I would throw this out there because it's been reported on by a couple sources now. As I said, I personally think there's other players in Vancouver that they could be scouting. I think Hansen makes sense. I think that Tanev makes sense. Stetcher would make sense if Montreal wants a good young defenseman, and who doesn't? Maybe they scout Tramkin. Maybe after Goodbranson gets back, if Goodbranson gets back in time, maybe Tramkin's on his way out in order to solidify things up front. Anyways, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Who else do you think Montreal Canadiens might look at from Vancouver? And you guys can put out trade proposals. I don't respond a lot of the time to them because, it's all just speculation, wild, crazy speculation, and anybody's guess is as good as anybody else's. I think the real trick is going to be whether or not Burrows waives his no trade. That's really going to be the thing. Does he waive? Because a lot of players don't, and that's their right when they sign that contract. Fans get mad. I remember last year fans getting mad at Dan Hamhuis for not waiving his no trade to go to Dallas, and I don't. There were conflicting reports about whether or not Vancouver even asked him, but immediately the fans right away are like, "Oh, Hammy is just thinking of himself, and if he wasn't so selfish, he'd go ahead and allow himself to be traded." And I'm thinking, wait a minute. If he exercised his no trade clause, that's his right. That's in his contract. He doesn't owe the fans of Vancouver anything. If his family is firmly entrenched in Vancouver and he wants to play out the rest of the season in Vancouver, that's his right. That's why you have a no trade clause. If fans are going to act like whenever a GM wants to trade a player, the no trade clause doesn't matter, then there's no point having that clause in the contract. That's why it's there. So, anyways, let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And if you're a Montreal fan, let me know in the comments below why you really don't want Alex Burrows on your team. Maybe pass that forward to the Montreal management. I don't know that Bergevin would necessarily listen. But I don't know of very many fans outside of Vancouver who even like Alex Burrows. So let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to you all again soon.